Yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about what I call the forgotten realms of test design. But maybe I should set a little bit the context first. What I'm doing and what smart testing is doing. As you said, I'm global customer success manager at smart testing. Global means everything but France, because smart testing is a French company, and customer success manager means that I help people working with our tool or our tools, because currently we have two, and that's the only marketing slide I have. One was which is which is doing shift left, and which is the part that is relates to what I'm talking about today, which is model-based testing, a model-based testing tool, and to the right it's a shift right tool, it's gravity, but that's not at all the topic of today. The important part of this slide is that at smart testing we have a sort of a mission. We want to make sure, or we want to help our customers to test what really matters. And to test what really matters, this goes into this direction of to test really the requirements, to make sure that we have coverage of the requirements, to have good test design. And this is where the idea from this talk came from, because test design, that's something we learn at the ISTQB certified tester, but somehow I have the impression that it is an activity which is extremely important, but it is not really perceived by people, especially by management. Yesterday I had a tutorial here, and I said that my impression is that upper management doesn't care at all about the tests as long as they are green. And they all laughed at that moment. So I'm afraid I'm not so far away from reality that test design is not so really perceived. And what I am trying to do here is really to speak about this topic, also to strengthen your self-esteem in a sense that you're doing a very important thing for all those who are managers and listening, also to create more awareness. Or even maybe just to comfort your own opinion that test design is important. So when I started, everybody talks about artificial intelligence at the moment, yeah, and artificial intelligence will replace everybody. So we'll also write keynotes. So I had the idea when I wanted to look for visuals to illustrate my talk, to ask a crayon, which is an artificial intelligence drawing one, to draw the forgotten realms of test design. And what came out matches quite well my background. It's a bit spooky. The examples or the proposals the AI gave to me, but what made me laugh most is the next prompt. You say there's always a proposal how to continue. The next prompt was test design concepts buried beneath mountains of paperwork and outdated processes. I found this interesting, because somehow the artificial intelligence must get input, and well, it describes our reality, which can sometimes be hard. If you have a closer look at the generated images, then the one I prefer the two here. The one to the left I prefer it because it's exactly what I want to talk about. I want to talk about all this very important and creative work that happens in our mind, but is somehow not perceived and is not well supported. And I love also the right one because I like it. It's beautiful, but I have absolutely no idea. It's very surrealistic, but I have no idea what how this relates to the forgotten realms of test design. Okay, then of course, I did some research, and I wanted to see a little bit how the software testing. What do I find on software testing reputation? Of course, I asked Google, and I apologize, it's in German because my Google is in German. Ähnliche Fragen means similar questions. Huh? So I discovered this is an AI too, because it depends on what you click on. What you get as proposals for similar questions in the row. So is software testing a good career? The answer was rather yes. Does software testing have a future? Yeah, definitely, yes. Is software testing in demand? Is software testing stressful? Is software testing well paid? Is software testing gradually dying? And to take this one here, is software testing stressful? Software testing can be stressful. That's the answer we get from Google. Causes can vary from deadlines, lack of communication, or internal pressure. It is also the relentless nature of the job. Okay, so now we know it's definitely software testing is stressful. Is a software tester a hard job? Good software testing is not an easy job. It is extremely difficult to perform high quality software testing. This is because of the wide range of knowledge areas that are in one way or another affected, and the range of required skills. So we do very important and hard work. Next one is testing easier than coding? I found this a little bit surprising. Compared to a tester, the workload for a developer is less. So we do more work, have a higher workload as the developers have, because testers have more documentation work. A developer writes the code required to create the functionality and merges it, and that's it. That's not, I think this is a little bit oversimplified regarding the work of developers, but it comforted me somehow a little bit in my impression that there is we do a lot of work, and but still software developer seems to be more interesting, more the nicer job. Next one was very interesting. I mean, Google proposed me a similar question: why software testers are not respected? In many companies, the testers are seen as the guy who couldn't cut it as developers. They are often second-class citizens. They aren't consulted on design, are far outnumbered, and they are seen as an added expense that constantly, delays the release of a product. That's what was really hard. But I mean, somehow this information must have been somewhere in the internet. Now, of course, this is not necessarily the truth, because we know quite well that those answers can be biased. I mean, I already biased it by clicking on the most bad responses. But when you have a look at what is recommended as best good jobs, this is once again a screenshot from Google. When you get the best jobs of 2023, then you have full stack developer, data engineer, cloud engineer, psychiatric nurse, senior product manager, backend developer, site reliability engineer. I didn't even know that this exists, and machine learning engineer, which is not surprising because AI is everywhere at the moment. But what about me? What about software testing? What about software testers? And this is similar if you go to other platforms like Stepstone or other. I had another screenshot, but it was in German. That's why I took this one, where there was a lot of development-related jobs, and there was the facility manager even mentioned, but nothing regarding quality assurance, software testing, etc. So it's not really mentioned as a good job. But the real value is salary. You can see how much you are valued also on your monthly pay. So let's compare that. And this is from the Indeed career salary guide. So we can see to the left, we have the software engineers at $115,000 per year. It's for the United States. If you're a senior software engineer, then it goes up until $140,000 per year. A pure developer is slightly below 100,000. A front-end developer, you have the different specifications. The best is here the back-end developer with nearly 160,000. What about the testers? Well, we also have the specialized parts like software architect, which is not so far away, I would say. But if you have a look at the lower parts here, a quality assurance analyst, only 40,000. or quality assurance tester, 66,000. The automation engineer, which is a developer, is 100,000. So it is slightly less, or even much less compared to software developer. So not surprising that there still persists this impression that being a software developer is better than being a software tester. So it's also interesting to have a look at the ranges, because here you can see the software engineer. I took similar job descriptions: software engineer salary and software test engineer salary. So you can see the lower limit is lower for software test engineers, but the higher limit is far lower than the higher limit for the software engineer. Once again, in the United States. Now, the US are not everything, so I had a look at Germany. That's why it's the screenshots are in German. And you can see to the top, you can see the software developer, and here the software test engineer. It's not so far away. So maybe we have local differences also, which maybe it's not that bad as my own impression was. But to come back to the question, where's the problem and what can we do about it? When we look at software testing, we had quite a lot of progress in our realm, in our testing domain. First of all, we talk about shift-left testing. Shift-left testing means that the developers are not the ones who create the facts, and then the testers comes afterwards and delay the delivery, as we saw in the statement before. And shift-left testing is really important. It is part of the specification part, and as we know, requirements are extremely important. So testing gets valued. So this is one of my messages, that if you want to have testing or test design, and more specifically get valued, then strive for shift-left approaches. The second very important thing is that you have to talk together. You have to talk to the developers, you have to talk to the product owners, you have to be involved in the product refinement activities. So this concept of the three amigos, combining the product owner, developers, and testers, and they are doing three amigos workshops where they groom about the backlog and refine it. This is also an activity that makes testing more visible and more valued, because our colleagues are not bad. They don't say, well, you're a second-class citizen, as was stated in there before. It's more lack of interest, I would say. But if we talk to each other, then interest is raised, and developers get interested in what our testing aspects are, because sometimes we are stuck due to things that we cannot test. Depends on the system, but sometimes we are stuck because we cannot test, because we cannot inject an error, for example. And it's not within our possibilities to do this error injection. But error injection for the developer has absolutely no priority, because it doesn't add value to the product, at least not from the point of view of the developer. And a bit similar for the product owner. The error injection, to the contrary, raises the question, do we leave it in, or do we take it out in the end? But for testing, it's absolutely necessary. So when you talk together, for example, following the three amigos approach, then you have the closer collaboration. You have humans talking to each other. We perceive each other as humans, and we usually value each other. Another thing is tester-driven approaches, and especially also acceptance test-driven approaches, like behavior-driven testing, or behavior-driven development, I should say. The idea here is really that shift-left really come to life. We use the acceptance tests, usually in BDD, written as Gherkin scenarios, to refine the user stories and to specify the acceptance test criteria. And it should be perceived as a development activity and not as a testing activity. We do not write test cases. We explain the system, that we explain the use cases. We provide the details that on the one hand has to be implemented, and on the other hand have to be tested, of course. So this goes all in the same direction. Those are agile approaches, but you can also do them in a more traditional V-model based approach. For lower level testing, lower testing levels, we already have quite a lot of support with continuous integration, continuous delivery chains. We have Jenkins servers executing automated tests. We have a lot of tool support also for test automation. So we have, this is the part where I would say we have the least pain. But here we do not talk about test design. We talk about test automation, but test automation is not everything. I mean, you write test scripts, and it is nice to have a lot of different tools coming up, supporting you in writing the test scripts. But test design is the step before. This is where you think about what you want to test, what you want to have in your test scripts, and regardless of whether it's manual testing or automated testing, this previous step exists, but it is not perceived. That's what I call the forgotten realm. It is. I know customers or contacts, let's say, that say, "But no, we do no longer do any test design. We automate everything." And when they think about test design, they think about writing test cases, manual test specification in an ALM tool or in X-ray, the step-by-step description, what we want to do. They no longer do that because they directly code those step-by-step descriptions. But that's not test design. Test design is when you think about, what do I want to test? I want to test the child, the adult, the retired person, the employed person. You want to test equivalence partitions. You want to test a negative age, for example, to have a negative testing, or an age which is not expressed in digits. For example, those are the things testers think about, and that's the activity of test design. And we still do it, even with automation. So beware of that, and talk about it and make it visible that this activity is really important, because this is where the tests become good. You can automate a lot of things and they become green, because if you don't test things which are difficult, then probably the developers have already thought about it and it will work. It's because we think about all those mean situations we want to challenge, and the completeness we want to have in our tests, that we find errors with our testing. Okay. I said that we had a lot of progress, but we still have organizational silos, or at least we can still have those organizational silos. I see this, especially in larger organizations. You have, on the one hand, you have the IT department, where you have those who know C# programming languages, Angular, and so on, the developers. And on the other hand, you have those more business-related organizations, where the people, finally, quite often the end users of the product which is developed are working, and those end users who volunteered or got volunteered for the job will do the testing. They are very, very good in challenging the systems. They find a lot of errors, but they cannot code. And they are quite often also not in the same organization. They do not share the same file shares. You have still organizational silos. And then test design is completely out of view, because it takes place even in a different country or room or city, at least. We have this strong focus on test automation, I already talked about, and altogether this gives the forgotten realm of what I call the forgotten realm of test design. So what about tool support? Because I think tool support is one thing we should claim. We should explain to our managers, to those who have the budget, or those who decide on the tools, that the test automation is not everything, and that we need proper tool support similar to developers. So to the left, we have the testing areas, the areas which are defined by the ISTQB certified tester, which are planning, monitoring and control, analysis, design, implementation, execution, and completion. And when we have a look at tool support, we can distinguish three kinds of tools, or three states of advancements, rather. We have the tools that are already well established. So many companies, the majority, I would say, have some sort of test management tool. At least that's my impression. Sometimes I have some doubts, but having Jira or ALM or Polarion or whatever other tools there are out in the world that allows you to have a traceability between test cases and requirements or user stories, this is the first step. And I also think that this should be the first step. You need something like that to make sure that you can trace from requirements to test cases to get an idea about the coverage. Of the coverage and also of the progress of your test design. The second part, where tool support is already quite well established, is to automated test execution. I mean, probably not all of you have test automation yet, but there's definitely a will in most managements to go for more automation, thinking that this is cheaper and easier to do, and they won't complain, and will work on weekend, the test scripts. So automated test execution is also something to keep up with the speed of agile development is rather necessary. This part, tool support, there are a lot of tools, and there's also budget, I would say. What I observe is there are several types of tools on the rise. First of all, you have the non-functional testing tools, mainly performance and security testing, not so much usability testing, because that's less so tool supported too. But as we get more and more digital, more and more interconnected, interoperability tests, performance tests, load tests, and especially security testing becomes more important. And those are tests as test automation, which are impossible without tool support. So those tools are on the rise. There are more and more budget available for it. The second one, which kind of tools which I observe are on the rise, are all tools that call themselves no-code or low-code tools. And the idea behind that is that developers are difficult to get. At least in Europe, this is at least in Germany and in France. To speak about what I really know about, they are difficult to get. And it is also laborious to write test scripts and to maintain test scripts. If we can make that easier, then it will become cheaper. So creating test scripts using drag and drop or having keyword-driven approaches, this is there is a let's say once again, managers are listening to this speech. We want to have a low-code tool to make non-developers able to participate to test automation. The third category is the tools that are really coming up now and in the near future, because all tool vendors, including us, by the way, are thinking about artificial intelligence in testing tools. So you have new tools that scan the graphical user interface and build up building blocks for then the drag and drop creation of scripts, for example. Or as another example, you have tool vendors thinking about using artificial intelligence to analyze requirement specifications and to create test cases from it. Or what we are thinking about is rather to analyze existing test cases and to create models from it, so that you then maintain the model. You go away from the textual description more to the visual description, and maintenance of test cases is also becoming easier. All those are AI-powered testing tool approaches, which are in the prototype phase or still in the design phase, or some of them are already on the market, but they are really very, very new and just coming in the near future. So this is tool support we can have. But when we look at the areas that are supported, we definitely have a good support with the test management tools for the planning, monitoring, and control part. We also have tool support with the test automation tools for execution. The low-code, no-code things go more in the direction of implementation, test completion, that's more archiving. There are links to GitHub, and so this is also tool supported. In the upcoming tools, we also get more support for the analysis part. Reading requirements, for example, using AI, and but still the least supported is the test design, because it is very difficult. If you have bad requirements, you have a high chance to have bad code too, and it is absolutely up to the intelligence of the testers. This part in the figure here in the brain, to find out about good tests, which are not in the requirements, and to specify them and to execute. But then afterwards you have the tool support, but to specify them. And this is still really what I call the forgotten realms. The part that even with tool support is difficult. I put my hope into those AI-powered tools. As I said, our tool, yes, is a model-based testing approach, and we want to use artificial intelligence to make it easier to get the step back and to get the higher abstraction level, and to have a better support for test case design and also test case maintenance. I don't want to make a marketing speak here or sales speech. That's why I won't go too much into detail. But I consider that YEST is more than is exactly a tool going into this direction, supporting test design. So, what are the possible things we could expect and we would love to have? Now, for example, we would love to have editing support. When I wrote this slide, I thought about what do developers have? Developers have syntax highlighting, for example. The special words like the if of the programming language is highlighted. Why we have that? In a sense, we have this especially in BDD frameworks where the given when then, for example, is highlighted. Or maybe parameters are highlighted in a different color. We would like to have auto-completion of text blocks. When a developer types a variable name, then he or she gets auto-completion and then just double-clicks on it, and this reduces the risk of typos. What's similar to us? We would like to have auto-completion of text blocks. We don't want to have different test steps with typos in it, and then when we do a find replace, it won't work because of the typo and so on. We want to have drag and drop. Drag and drop, for example, to establish traceability between user stories and test steps. We want to have an easy-to-use editor. We want to have definitely more than just an editor with one field for the test step, one for the expected result, and one for the actual result. But that's what we currently have and what is called tool support for test design. That's not tool support for test design. We want to have some support for thinking about equivalence petitions and so on. I don't say that there aren't such tools, but for example, I think of the classification tree editor. This is a tool helping me out to think about equivalence petitions and how to test them. But those are isolated solutions. And what we need is more of them and more integrated solutions. Of course, traceability, that's the best, I would think, say, which currently exists, and configuration management. Then we have the debugging part. Yeah, well, because we also have errors in the script, and we may want to have syntax checks, especially when you write models. We have model checkers, for example. We want to have warnings in case of inconsistencies, propagation of changes, something which is at least or even more comfortable than find replace. And this goes into the direction of artificial intelligence. We would like to have some self-healing of test cases. If a requirement changes, or if the code changes and the label changes name, we would love to have the test case adapting itself, for example, through AI. And as for the automation part, as I said, we probably have the best already existing tool support, test case generation, test script generation, test data generation, the automated tool integration, the CI/CD pipeline. A little bit less supported is impact analysis. For example, user story changes and then which tests have to be adapted, or sanity checks. This is maybe not the part that is best supported. Okay, so this is mainly my message. As in the end, I want to show you something. Coming back to my beginnings of when I wrote the talk. Of course, I did the same as everybody. I asked ChatGPT to write my talk, which didn't work. But I asked ChatGPT to tell me what are the forgotten realms of test design. Yeah, please tell me what are the forgotten realms of test design. And ChatGPT answered quite long. It always talks a lot. The forgotten realms of test design is a metaphorical concept that refers to the lesser known or often overlooked areas of software testing that are crucial for ensuring the quality of software. It's an analogy to the popular Dungeons and Dragons fantasy world of the same name, where there are many hidden and unexplored places with untold secrets. That sounds good, no? We are in the forgotten realms of test design. In the context of software testing, the forgotten realms of test design could include boundary testing, negative testing, performance testing, security testing, usability testing, compatibility testing, exploratory testing. We have a lot of non-functional testing here in that part. And then the best is these areas of test design are often overlooked or underestimated, but they are critical for ensuring that software is reliable, secure, and easy to use. By exploring and testing these forgotten realms, testers can uncover hidden defects, vulnerabilities, and user experience issues that may otherwise go unnoticed. So we are really, this test design activity is really important. What I love about that is that I think, in my opinion, I invented this term. I have no idea where ChatGPT gets this information. But yes, of course, I thought about the popular world, Dungeons and Dragons world of the same name. And it is not too far away from what I wanted to say. It's scary, I think. But we'll have to get accustomed, I think, to similar things. Okay, I can't see the watch, but this is one of my last slides. It's I admit it's taken from the marketing material, but I love it. I find it beautiful, and it also illustrates what I want to show regarding how test design should be in the test process. So when we have Jira, we'll replace it by another ALM tool if you don't have Jira, but in the Agile world, we quite often have Jira. Well, Jira is definitely the center. It's where we have centralized most of the information, and all the others tools and all the rest of activities also orbits around. So we can have, for example, X-ray in the test management tool. We have our test automation tools, and there can even be more interfacing with Jira, interfacing with X-ray, but we should also have support for the test design. And this is equally important. It should integrate into this environment to have really a fully integrated test process. Last slide is that's from a Gartner report, the market guide. Gartner also thinks about artificial intelligence and on testing, about testing. How does testing evolve, and how was it in the past? So when we have a look at here at the time scale, in the 80s, 90s, we had manual testing. And the test efficacy was efficiency, I would say, was low. And here this is only refers to the blue line. A delivery cycle time was in years. So we did a release, and then we took a long time to make the next release. And then we came into the 90s till 2000, where we got the first automation initiatives. Automation became more important. The delivery cycle time went down a little bit. We had deliveries 4 times a year, once a quarter of a year. And the same time, the technical complexity change rate went up a little bit, at least. I mean, we have scripts to maintain, and we have more code. It's very simple. Then came the agile destiny, where we got a lot of browser automation frameworks, and with agile we really reduced the delivery cycle time. And then till 2020, for example, we had this continuous integration. It's not a hype because it's still there, and it's a very good thing. But people went for, we want to automate as far as possible, and we want to have this automated test also executed automatically at each check-in, and we want to get faster. We manage also, but still complexity rises, and we got a little bit more efficient, but complexity still raised similar to the efficiency. And this is the prediction of Gartner, that in the next 10 years, we will get more and more AI augmented testing, and we will really go down with the delivery cycle time till minutes or even seconds. And somehow in the next years, we will reach this turnover point where complexity is still growing, but thanks to AI, our efficiency is increasing. My personal opinion is that AI is something that should be there to help us, but it will probably not replace this test design activity, because we still have this very strong processor in our heads, and this one is it needs a lot of experience to replace that. Maybe AI may learn it, but I'm not sure whether it's really in the next 2 years, because if you look at I guess it's not to be taken too literally here. It's more a trend analysis than anyway, it's a prediction. So okay, that was it. I don't want to stress your patient anymore. I saw that there are questions in the chat or remarks in the chat, but I can't open the chat. So maybe someone tells me.
Thank you so much for this.
Thank you.
Fascinating presentation. And so there is one hand raiser. So let me see if is a question or a mistake hand. Okay, so guys, if you have questions, you can write on Q&A section or raise your hand and ask by your voice. Okay, so I'm going to ask a question if that's possible.
You're welcome.
So what do you recommend for balanced test design efforts with other testing activities to ensure its proper implementation?
I think we should merge, I really believe in shift-left approaches. I think we should merge a test design effort in the requirements analysis effort, which is also giving it more more visibility, more attention also. And we are no longer the guys that come behind and that break down everything. We are constructing things. I mean, we are constructing things. Also, when we came afterwards and we break things down, this is somehow a constructive thing, because in the end, the product gets better. But it is not perceived as that. So, in my opinion, really the first step is to get the testers more involved, to get the testers involved earlier. And this is also an experience I have. I mean, I do model-based testing for since 2006. And this is a very good approach to do shift left testing, because you can do top-down modeling. You can, without having the details of the system, you still can already describe the workflows. And then when you get the details of the system, you can go more into detail and so on. But it only works if the testers are really involved that early. If you start with model-based testing once the code is written, or at least once the requirements are written, then it is this additional effort. Yep. And it still is very valuable, but it is not giving the full variety of help in communication and in identifying misunderstandings before the bugs are implemented. And so we have to get the testers more on equal side, eye level. You say in German, I don't know whether this exists in English, but really on equal terms with the developers
Okay.
Self-confident. Reclaim your.
Yes. So there is another question from Derek Atem Akangwa. So what will you recommend as a proof of concept to get started for test automation in telco company to convince top management with little or no developers in that company?
Oh, that's a tough one. Because test automation without developer is I have to admit, I'm not that much in the telecom part. I know that you have all this Etsy working very hard on textual model languages, and you have the TTCN3 framework, which is lying behind. Telecom has quite specific requirements, also regarding, for example, asynchronous message treatments. So I would recommend, probably I would recommend to look for solutions using message sequence charts and being able to generate from message sequence charts code. But without developers, it will be hard. You will still have someone who has to implement the calls and. But that's the immediate thought I have when I hear the question.
And thank you so much for being here. It was really, really so nice to see you here, meet you, and get your value and your vision on that. So I guess
also your great energy, Anne.
Yes, definitely. There is a comment from Joel. He says, I agree that testers should be involved earlier, but do you agree that testers are also quitting from that accountability, especially with Agile and the quality belonging to all the team?
Yeah, that's an interesting topic too. In the beginning, Agile wanted to get rid of the testers. They said quality, that's a team issue, and we have the whole team approach and the team's responsibility. And then somehow came this term of the Agile tester came up, and the idea of the three amigos, because in reality, everybody realized that first of all, developers don't really like to test. I mean, they write their unit tests and they do good job, but they don't like the. I'm exaggerating. I love to exaggerate. Please pardon me. They are not too much fan of strict, rigid frameworks, and which is good because developing is a creative job, and testers are usually in a more rigid mindset. That's why they also struggle more with unclear requirements, because they want to know what is good, what is bad, what is right, what is wrong. The developer will give it a trial. The developer something, and then we will see. And if it's not what we wanted to see, they will change. It's easy to change code quite often. So the agile tester is an important role, and it is also, I would say, it's an accepted role by now, that you need testers also in agile teams. But it still doesn't mean that it is necessarily an equal team member. It may be, it depends a lot on the culture of the company. So very important thing is also to establish a culture where the testers are as recognized as the developers are. And then I come back to the tool support. I mean, we work with typewriters in a sense, and they have the developers have the beautiful tool support, and they ask for more, and they maybe not always get more, but it is not that difficult. If we want to have tools, it is always a struggle, and this should change. So if there are any managers listening to me, please consider this in your heart.
Hopefully. And thank you so much. Thank you for contributing and supporting us. We are so glad to meet you and have you here. Hope you have a lovely event in Germany. Thank you again. Have a really nice day.
Yeah, thank you. Just one last thing. I'm glad to connect with people on LinkedIn or to answer to emails, but beware of my email. Smart testing has only two T in total. It's not smart testing, it's smart testing. Because I already had a lot of trouble with that. Otherwise, it's quite easy. It's surname, family name at smarttesting.com.
Yeah. Okay.
Feel free to contact me if we want to know more, see more.
Yes, definitely we will. Thank you so much again for being here. Have a lovely day.
Yeah, have a nice online conference.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.